You can create the effect of a blur in Photoshop, and then using the PNG export option, you can then bring this into Flash. So what we're going to do is we're going to blur our dino thing friend out, and we're going to actually animate the frames and motions in Photoshop, and then save each one of these consecutively, and then bring them into Flash and animate them. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a motion blur to our dinosaur creature by going to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur. And as you see here, we're able to change the direction or the angle of this blur. So for now, we want him to streak across the screen, so we'll just leave it at 0. But what we're going to do on this very first blur is we're going to reduce the amount of blur to just about 10 pixels. So 9 or 10 pixels. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now we're going to save this. We're going to go to Save As from File menu. And in our Special Effects folder, which we already have in the Resources folder, we're going to save this as Dino Blur 01. Then we're going to choose from the list here PNG, because we want to keep the transparency. So in order to avoid me having to write this over and over again, since it's highlighted, I'm just going to simply copy this word here by pressing Command or Control C on the keyboard. Now we're going to save this, and we're going to go ahead and just accept the defaults, which is the no interlacing here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use our selection tool, and we're going to hold down the Shift key and move the dinosaur over just a little bit like this. And the cool thing about using the filters in Photoshop is that once you've applied a filter, all you have to do to invoke that filter again is go to Filter, Motion Blur, or press Command or Control F, and it will apply the same filter again. And it blurs out our dinosaur guy just a little bit more. But in this case, I want to add more of a motion blur to him. So I'm going to go back to my blur, motion blur, and I'm going to manually bump up this blur to about 25 pixels like this. Now we're going to go to File, Save As, and since we already copied the name of the file, we're going to press Command or Control V to paste that and just simply change this to 2. And once again, we're going to change this to a PNG, and we're going to save. And let's do this one more time. Let's go to our Filter menu, Motion Blur, and let's crank this up to about 50. And let's move our guy over just a little bit like this. And we're going to go to File, Save As, Command Control V, and this will be Dino Blur 3. And once again, let's change it to a PNG. Great. Now switch to Flash. And we're going to import these guys right into the library. So let's go to File, Import, Import to Library. And let's go to our Special Effects folder, which is located in the Resources files. And we have a Special Effects folder, and we have our Dino Blur guys here. So I'm going to select all these guys. I'm going to hold my Shift key down, grab the third one, and import these all into the library. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them on the stage one at a time. So let's go ahead and drag the first guy out, like so. And let's put him on the stage. Let's grab our ruler so we can more accurately place this guy. Make sure we just put it on top of his head like that, and maybe at the bottom of his chin, just so we have a reference. So I'm going to move him down like this. I'm going to create another frame here. I'm going to go Insert, Timeline, Blank Keyframe, or don't forget we can also use the swap method. So why don't we go ahead and use that? Let's press F6 on the keyboard right now, and this will expand the same picture to the other frame. We're going to click on the dinosaur. I'm going to go to Swap and select number 2. Let's move him over manually with our selection tool. Press F6 again. Let's click on the dinosaur, and once again we'll swap him out with the third one. And we'll move him to the edge like this. So when we manually script a timeline, look what we have. We have him non-blurred, then he goes off into the distance like so. So if you really want to have a more smooth blur, you may wish to use 10 to 15 of these things, and then, slowly build up the speed of the dinosaur from no blur all the way to blurred all the way out. To add to the effect, you might want to use a little squash and stretch. So let's go ahead now and free transform this guy. And we're going to let me zoom out a little bit here. Just squish him down a little bit so he's really squashed when he blurs out. So we're going to go to the beginning, and he's like, boom. So we get this sense of speed. And that's how you can use Photoshop and the cool PNG feature to create a cool motion blur. Now, before we finish this tutorial, what I want to show you is the reason we chose PNG. Now I'm going to click anywhere on the stage. Okay, let me select one of these areas here until I can see the background color of the movie. Now I can change this to like a watercolor. And because it's a dark blue like water, and we select the PNG, we get this great transparency.